8th, 2014 Public Safety Committee to order, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May meeting. No, we had a June meeting.
So moved.
And
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. The first on the agenda tonight is the Fire and Rescue Department.
Year-to-date, total run calls for Rutherford County Fire Rescue is, we've had 663 calls since January 1st. We had, last month, since last public safety, we've had 123 calls. MVA report, we had 39 MVA calls with average response time of 8.1 minutes. We've had several fatalities, and it seemed like every one of them is related to motorcycles. We've had a lot of instances of those here lately. Next sheet is your water usage and total call volume, training hours. Year to date, we've had 1,563 calls, which last year the grand total was over 2,100 calls, so we're online probably to be bigger than that this year. The last page is just the structure fires we report to the codes department. And we got our Dear John letter the other day from AFG. We didn't get the fire truck grant, so they turned us down on that. And then we passed the International Fire Code through the full commission, and we met with the planning commission today, and there was some little heartburn over the residential codes. So there'll be an amendment come through the public works and through the full commission where they're taking out the residential part of it, and then we'll be relying on the subdivision regulations that the planning commission adopted last year. So the fire code will only affect the commercial structures in the county. And if you have any questions on that, we got the planning and engineering with us.
Before we get going further on that, is there any questions on the report? If there's no questions on the report, I'll entertain a motion on the report.
Move to approve the report.
Got a
Mr.
motion,
Chairman.
is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now we doing.
Basically, the fire code is just going to affect the commercial structures in the county, and the residential will fall under the subdivision regulations that the planning commission adopted and the commission adopted, where in the major subdivisions, if you can't have the water supply, then they'll have to sprinkle the homes, which is what the commission voted on last year. But that'll only be in the areas in the county where there's not sufficient water supply to support the fire hydrants.
And that was going to still be in place anyway, correct?
Yeah. It just with a fire code in adoption, it would affect it all 1 and 2 acre lots, 10 acre lots, and people out in the rural areas, they would have to have some form of fire protection. And the planning commission had a little heartburn with that, so we just kind of realigned it to kind of keep what we had. And so by doing that, we had to take 102.5 out of the code, which deals with all the residential part of it.
But by doing this, it's still going to make it where there's fire hydrants within your larger subdivisions where fire protection is still in place and good fire protection. Is that?
Yes, sir. About the only difference we made in the subdivision regulations where it require the hydrants 1,000 foot apart, and we've increased the diameter of the turnarounds, cul-de-sacs. Code calls for 96 feet. We settled on 86 feet, and that will give us enough mobility for the apparatus to get there and turn around, which helps us and also helps a lot of the school buses when they go in there and have to turn around. It gives them a bigger race. They can kind of pull in, back up, and pull in and get in, pull them out. It's easier access and exit.
So
Thing that I'd heard about it was something about the road width.
Well,
That people were having a heartburn on. Is that, Jeff, you're on planning, is that correct? What's your take on this? I'd like to hear that first.
Let me just say that I think Chief Farley is right. There was some heartburn, but it wasn't unanimous. And most of the planning commission. I think the majority of planning commission thought that it was too big a step to take all at once, and had some heartburn over that without giving the development community, for the most part, a continued option to get some waivers and those types of things as it related to the fire code that was going into effect. In essence, the planning commission, not the staff, but the planning commissioners itself, really felt like that that portion of the new comprehensive plan that we adopted along with the subdivision regulations was being kind of sort of bypassed. And Chief Farley made a good case. However, after, in my mind, Commissioner Pete, what happened is I think he went with an open mind saying, well, maybe it is. And I think he met with others, the mayor included in that group, and said if this is causing major heartburn, let's back off a step, and then at some point in time, as we continue to grow, we may want to consider that. But at this point in time, that additional option for waivers was a big concern for the Planning Commission. Road width was really not a big concern. I think there was some discussion on that, and I think the feeling was that it was adequate the way it was, and I don't think there's going to be any changes made in that. Is that correct?
Well, the code calls for 26 feet, and the county did it at 22 feet, so we just deleted that out of the code when we adopted it.
I can understand some of that. Of course, I live in rural areas, and, you know, having fire protection is important to me.
Yes.
I fought enough fires out in a rural area. I know these old houses, you get a fire going, you pretty well lost them unless you're just right there. And, you know, and having access to sprinklers in these new homes. When I joined this commission, we didn't make the development community put hydrants in any development. And that's something that we changed, you know, and there's time where you've got to push things like this forward. I think we have, but I'd like to hear specifically what was deleted before I'm willing to go along with it.
Well, basically, what was adopted with the International Fire Code and with 102.5 of the code, it covers residential. What was gonna happen is that in the subdivisions, the hydrants would have had to been 500 foot apart
Okay.
instead of 1,000 in subdivisions. Now you take, I think the biggest concern was you take 5 acres or 10 acre lots, or people who have 50 acres or 1,000 acres. If they built a home, they were gonna have to either buy a hydrant to put by their driveway, which would give them fire protection, or they were gonna have to sprinkle their homes, or we give them several, we made several options because we didn't want to seem like we were mandating sprinklers. They could either sprinkle the home if the domestic water wasn't there for fire protection, for a hydrant. They could sprinkle their home, or they could put I think it was a 3,000 gallon tank in the ground that we could hook to as like a hydrant. And I think there was some concern brought up about that it was kind of overreaching what the Planning Commission had adopted, and they worked real hard for a year adopting those subdivision regulations and adopting the sprinklers into the places of subdivisions that couldn't supply water. And I think they kind of felt like that hard work they had spent and done was kind of overlooked. So what this does is it pretty much stays the same. And the residential part of it, and the subdivisions, the hydrants will be 1,000 foot apart instead of 500.
Same as they are now.
Yeah, and just like where you live out in the rural area, if you own land, you would have been required to have some form of fire protection, whether it be a hydrant, sprinklers, or a tank. And
For new development.
yeah, new development. But now that is been taken out. So if you build a home on 50 acres or 5 acres or 10 acres, then you're not required to do anything. You can still get a fire hydrant waiver.
But to get a fire hydrant waiver, there's a point in there now where they have to
Well,
meet with you.
They can still get it, but what we're going to do is that they got to come talk to me. That gives me an opportunity to explain to them what they're facing if they don't do one of those 3 things. That, you know, basically there's no water protection.
But people do have the option to do this, and the builders still have the
Oh, they-
option.
yeah,
to
I
put
mean,
this in.
anybody
I'm just
can-
wanting to make sure that we're not taking away from the development community the ability to put sprinklers in if they so desire to do
No,
that.
that's not the intent.
That's
We're
my
not,
big concern right there.
we're not requiring it. Now, if you want to go out here and build.
I'm not saying I want to require it either, I'm just
Yeah.
saying I want to make sure that we're not taking it
Oh, no,
away.
we can't do that, but I mean, if
They've got
you,
an option.
if you buy a house, and if you buy 5 acres and you decide you want to buy a hydrant and sprinkle it too, you can do both, if you want to put that expense in there.
If it's available.
Well, if the hydrant's available, that's true. But anybody who wants to sprinkle their home, whether they have the adequate water for a fire hydrant or not, they're able to do that.
But also my concern as far as their ISO rating, if they sprinkle their home, would they get the same benefits?
They get a discount.
They would get
They
that
do.
discount on it. And the reason I'm bringing this up, this can mean hundreds of dollars a year, if not thousands of dollars a year to some of these people out in the rural areas and in the city, if they're able to put those in their homes.
That was part of my concern, because I get calls every day in the office of people who are called, and because their house is not within their house is not within 1,000 foot of a hydrant, their insurance rating has gone from a 5 to a 10, and in some cases it's gone up $3,000 or $4,000 a year.
Well, that's why I'm bringing these things up.
And so-
I want to make sure we're not yanking the rug out from under people that need this kind of help.
Well, and that's what I'll be explaining to them, that with these things put in place, it will help their insurance rating, because if they go out here and they build out in the county and they don't have the adequate water supply, or they don't have some kind of fire protection, their insurance is going to be a lot higher.
That's only outside of subdivisions,
Yeah.
though.
It's only affects that.
only
The
outside of
subdivisions are still gonna get
subdivisions.
fire hydrants. It's only the people who build out here in the rural area on 5 acres, 10 acres, or whatever, built separately from
If
everybody
it's a
else.
subdivision that's got 4 houses or more,
It's gotta have
they gotta have the fire hydrants.
every 1,000
If
foot.
it's 3 houses or less, they have the other options. And then to get a waiver, and then meet with him.
I'm sorry to interrupt. When it comes to subdivisions, anything under 5 acres, any lot has to be within 1,000 feet of the fire hydrant. If it's a subdivision, they have to be within 1,000 feet of the fire hydrant. The sprinkler requirement comes into effect if it's more than 2 lots.
Well, do they have the option to put sprinklers in instead of a hydrant? Is what I'm curious about. I'm talking about a major subdivision.
Well-
Do they have that option? And I'm saying option, I'm not saying it's required.
Well, if the water purveyor can provide the hydrants, they'll put the hydrants in.
Yeah, but they still have an option. If they want to put,
They
want to put
can do
sprinklers in,
both.
they
Well,
can
that's
do
what I'm
that.
saying.
Yeah.
If a developer wanted to come in there, instead of putting in hydrants and wanted to put in sprinklers, are we allowing that? I mean, I know we would have to have a hydrant somewhere for a water source, but are we allowing sprinkler subdivisions?
I would say that's probably gonna have to be an equivalency given, because right now, the way it's, what?
Answer that, Doug.
The way the code currently, the way the subdivision regulations currently are, we're not given the option for them. If the subdivision area can support hydrants, they have to install them. We're not saying that they can, if they want to still put the
The
sprinklers in,
developer
they can, but they can't do that instead of the hydrants,
Well,
if it will allow for them.
The reason I was asking, that might be something that the developer could look at, and it might offset the cost for sprinklers.
There was
to
some
get
talk
those
about
in.
that.
That's why I'm asking, and, I want
Well, with
all
the
the
fire,
options
with the
that
fire
people
code,
can have out there.
with the fire code in place, I can make the decision to let them sprinkle it instead of buying fire hydrants. But the way it is now, they'll have to buy a fire hydrant. If they want to supply, the builder wants to, the homeowner wants to install sprinklers, he can do that also. But they'll have to install the fire hydrants.
The thing is, that the discussion was basically around people who are subdividing larger lots and letting family members or relatives build on those lots. If they had a waiver, they wanted the new lot, the child or the relative, to be able to build their home with a waiver as well. And the way it was worded, that couldn't happen like that. The discussion was pretty much around people that usually build on a
Family
5-acre
farms.
lot, or they usually build a pretty decent home. And if some of them are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 homes, they're smart enough to want to put in some type of fire protection. They really are. It was the ones that were kind of building homes that probably were the more inexpensive homes. That was the real concern. If they wanted to build a smaller home on a lot, then that's the reason that Chief Farley will be able to sit down and talk with him and say, you know, your rating could cost you a lot more in insurance and if you do nothing. So those are the type of things. It's not necessarily the development community that we were having heartburn over. It was just the single homes that were being built.
I'm not arguing that about the development community. I want the development community to have the options to go either way, if we can do that.
Well,
That's what I'd like
they have to
see.
install the fire hydrants, but if they want to install sprinklers, they can do that also.
Well, I think that they should be able to, put a major hydrant in, say within these 1,000-foot range, and let them sprinkle, so they don't have to do as many hydrants in a subdivision.
And that,
You know, I think there ought to be some kind of option in there to give them a cut rate.
Well, with the fire
to do
code,
that.
when the fire code involved the residential, they give me the option to do that, but it won't do that now.
You see where I'm coming
I do,
from?
and I think working
Trade-offs.
with they're called equivalencies. Between the planning director and the fire chief, equivalencies can be taken care of where if a developer wanted to come in here, instead of doing the hydrants, say every 2,000 feet instead of 1,000, and part of that equivalency could be to sprinkle the homes. That's an equivalency being given.
If it's, more economical for them to do that, and then too, it'd be a better selling value, say, hey, these homes are
Yeah.
sprinkled, this is gonna save you so much. It might be a tool they can use to sell that.
I think with the subdivision regulations and the fire code, well, the fire code wouldn't have it though, but I think an equivalency can be given through the planning department with the information that the fire chief can give them, that fire protection can be given. I think that's something that could be looked at and done, I think.
I don't wanna see options like that taken away from the development community or our citizens. So, that's why.
Well,
I keep
anybody
bringing this
in
up.
Rutherford County has the option to sprinkle their home if they want to.
Yeah.
I understand that, but whether it's viable financially for them to do that, I want to make it where it's more affordable for the developer and
Yeah.
the person.
The developer will be footing the bill for the fire hydrants. The homeowner will have to
That's
pay.
what I'm
for
saying.
sprinklers.
I'm like Gary, maybe one every 2,000 feet or whatever. I know, what are they, about $5,000 a piece now? And more than that, I'm sure. But
Well, they're on like an 8-inch line, they're $4,200. If you get on a 26-inch line, they're like $8,200. So they're anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000. So they can get very expensive. Depends on the type of or the size water supply that they're tapped into.
There are some, I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
I think all this discussion is really good and healthy. What we're talking about here with this equivalency business, I think is the next step. We really sort of need to go ahead and move forward with what we're talking about, making these initial changes, because we're gonna have people coming through with projects and making those requests that are not right now quite able to be met without using the fire code. Because right now the fire code is in effect. We need to remove that for right now, so that we can go back to the zoning piece and the subdivision regs, so that we can sort of put that in place and put that behind us, and then move forward with the additional maybe change of our subdivision regs, again, to allow what Commissioner P is talking about, or some of those equivalency kinds of things.
I'm not personally ready to vote on that until I see a list of what exactly has been changed and what has not been changed.
Well, but basically, I'm just.
I understand, you're trying to tell me.
It's gonna go through the public works and then it'll go for the full commission.
Well, before I vote on it at full commission level, I want to see exactly what those changes are.
And we can give you a copy of the subdivision regulations.
Well, the subregs are not changing specifically. It's the resolution that was passed addressing the codes. There will be a modified, amended code resolution for the International Fire Code, which will distinguish exactly which line items and pieces of that code would actually be changed or modified or deleted.
And we can do that without losing our accreditation, chief?
You know about ISO rating?
Yes.
Yes. A lot of the insurance ISO requires that each home be within 1,000 foot of a hydrant. If the hydrants are 1,000 foot apart in the subdivision, every home will be within 500. The most would be with 500 feet to that hydrant. So every home will be at least 500 feet to a hydrant.
So then there's no change from what you were bringing up a minute ago about the regs saying that every house had to be 500 feet from a hydrant.
No,
except
the
when
old-
you're outside of a subdivision.
With the code in place in the subdivisions, they would have been 500 feet apart, which would be 250. What we've adopted, the hydrants are 1,000 foot apart. So each home, the maximum would be 500 feet from a hydrant.
What we adopted as a commission, under the new regs or the new subdivision regs?
Our subdivision regulations are
The
1,000
subdivision
foot.
regs had the 1,000 feet
And is
prior
that-
to the adoption of the International Fire Code.
None of
And then
those
we
things,
And we adopted the International Fire Code. You're saying that changed to 500.
that's right,
So-
But this, is going back to 1,000 on the next one.
going back
That's-
to the subdivision
Right,
regulations.
but that's only one change, so what else, are the other changes I want here too?
But the only other change is those lots 2 or less are not covered by the International Fire Code, but they are covered right now. You'd have to have, as he described, you'd have to have at least a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of that lot, or one of the 2 or 3 other options, including sprinkler, or holding pond, or a tank, or whatever.
I thought you said that was only on commercial structures.
No.
The
With the-
code that's been adopted includes residential for just that.
The code that we adopted or the new.
The fire code that was
Fire
adopted
code.
includes all residential homes, whether it be on 5 acres or subdivision.
Right.
What we're proposing to do is take the only change it would be to amend the code is take the people out in the rural area with 1 and 2 homes on a 5-acre lot or bigger would not be required to buy a hydrant or install sprinklers.
Unless they're commercial.
If they're commercial, they'll have to have a.
They gotta buy by the code if they're
They
commercial.
gotta go by the code. And then I'll have the authority to determine what that fire flow will be and what they're required to do. That makes sense?
The new international fire codes that we adopted, how long ago's that been?
About 3 months.
Yeah, several months ago anyway, was in conflict with, at least the fire codes for residential was in conflict with our subdivision regulations. And that's what created the discussion to start with. And that's when the planning commission, or some planning commissioners, had that heartburn, is that we're not sure that we like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that the planning commission had a lot to say in that. I don't think it ever came before the planning commission for any type of a vote. It just went directly to the county commission, as it related to the fire codes, right?
Well, it was adopted when all the other codes were adopted.
I
So,
understand that, but him saying that planning didn't have any discussion in this really bothers me.
Had some discussion, but had no vote in it. It was strictly a county commission decision whether or not to adopt the international fire codes.
Yeah, when codes are adopted, the planning commissions don't have any say-so
I
as far as.
understand that, but I'm talking about now. The planning commission didn't have any discussion on this change that you're bringing up.
oh yeah, we had a discussion today.
Okay.
Well, we had a discussion
Last
last
month.
time, and that's when,
That's
and
what
this
I
month.
wanted
Yeah,
to
so
make
I-
sure that
oh,
y'all
yeah.
had to discuss.
well, what we have
That's what caused the heartburn.
Okay.
What we've come to, Commissioner P, is me and planning and engineering and the planning commission are all on the same page now. We're all in agreement to this.
If, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand it to be, the only thing that's changed in this whole deal is with the fire code going from 500 feet back to 1,000 feet on hydrants. And if it's 2 houses or less, where they were required in the new fire code to have to be either sprinkled or a fire hydrant or some kind of tank, now they're backed out and a variance can be given. To me, that's the only thing that's changed in the whole scheme of things.
Yes.
As far as the codes being adopted. Is that a correct statement?
I mean, basically, we're just gonna continue on as we've been, really, when it
Right.
boils down to it.
Well, when I was on planning, you didn't automatically give a variance. You had to look at it and decide at that time whether you were granting a variance.
And that's-
But I don't think
that's-
everyone-
that's-
Is
everyone's
that
doing
what
it.
you're doing now?
Yes, sir, that's what we still do. They
Okay.
just, yeah, they just don't submit it and it's rubber stamp kind of a thing, you know, it's a.
Well, if you do, you might as well change your code.
Right, but that's not how it, I mean, they have to make application, we send it to, to find out, to the water provider to see if there's the ability to put a hydrant out there. We're gonna include Chief Farley with that discussion as well, so that the applicants will have to speak with him as well for options, possible options.
And if you can go out here in a rural community and put a hydrant in, you have to do that. But a lot of times what the CED says is that the line out there where they want to build won't supply a fire hydrant, so that's why they have to get the variance.
very aware of that. I'm one of those places. So,
Anyway, that's just just an update on
well,
that.
that's all the questions I've got for now, but please do provide me with the list of those changes.
Let me just kind of follow up one time with that and said that since the county commission adopted those international fire codes, Chief Farley could have stood his ground, okay, and said, I'm not going to agree to any changes at all. Somebody's going to have to make me make them, which would have been the county commission. But that's not the attitude that he took. Actually, the attitude that he took was one of cooperating and trying to figure out what's the best interest, not only for county government, but for the citizens of the county too. And I commend the planning department and also the chief's department for working together to come up with this compromise. And as I said earlier, this county is you've lived here your whole life. I've lived here my whole life. And I know what the place looked like 45 years ago, and I know what it looks like now. And I can't imagine, my mind won't comprehend what it will look like 40 years from now. But there's going to come a point in time where the type of changes that International Fire Code, in my mind anyway, what we've adopted and what we're looking at amended will be the right thing to do. At some point in time, we're probably not there, and that's the reason we're talking about making these amendments. But as we continue to grow, we're going to have to look at all types of issues that may cause tremendous heartburn across the community as well. Really tough decisions. When it talks about roads, are roads adequate enough to continue to do those kinds of things? Just like you mentioned width, but just like we had a discussion today on roads as we continue to develop out in the community. Are they adequate enough, and are there options to make sure that as we continue to grow out there, are all of these roads big enough to supply the additional traffic that's going to be fed in there? Actually, we're in pretty good shape compared to some communities, I would say, but all in all, these international fire codes are probably maybe restrictive, more restrictive than we need right now, but maybe not in the future, and we'll probably need to revisit that, or county government will need to revisit that as time goes by, because we are no longer we're no longer an agricultural community. We're just not. Although there's that history out there, and those type of that type of thinking needs to be preserved. It really does. But as we continue to grow, the number of farms that are out there are going to continue to dwindle and dwindle, and how we protect those citizens that are moving in and doing that it's real important, and that's our job, is to do those kinds of things.
Because a lot of these citizens don't, I mean, it's not their job to know it, but they don't really realize until it's too late that they may not have the infrastructure built in to be able to fight, for the fire department to be able to fight a fire. And next thing you know, they're devastated and everything's gone.
Well, just the infrastructure, period. You know, we're building schools now where 20 years ago you would never envision a school being
Right.
there, but they're there now.
Yeah.
You know, and do we have adequate fire protection, adequate roads to service all of this, and not even talking about the subdivisions that are going to be going in.
But Commissioner P, myself, and Doug DeMasi and Eric Hill and CED have worked very closely and met several meetings and discussed this and are in full agreement with the Planning Commission. And so, I mean, it's right now, I feel like what we've done is adequate. And there may come a time, like Mr. Phillips said, where I may recommend that we go back and take those in. But I feel like we got a good plan in place right now. I feel like my job is to increase fire protection in all aspects, whether it be code or our operations. And we're just going to try to go at a pace that everybody can feel comfortable with.
All right. Anybody else on anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry.
What?
Report. Thank you.
Emergency management.
Thank you, yes, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have my report in front of you. Under the area of preparedness this month, we've conducted some training a couple of times with the with the SORT team, some hazmat training with them. We also, on a couple of Saturdays, have conducted community emergency response team training. We have about 30 people in each one of those classes. Also, just to let you know that the tower project, we've located an inexpensive building, meaning that we only paid about, I think, $100 for it, that we could utilize for the Hudson Road Tower. We just got that thing set aside until we can demolish the old substandard building.
Is it a modular
Yes.
building?
Yes, it is.
You may want to get someone to look at it, because on a modular building, before you get electricity hooked up to it, it's gotta have certain guidelines, and you may
Yeah.
wanna get with David and make sure that, because you may get in there and you get everything hooked up and you can't get power to it.
Also, this one thing is helping the project as well as everything else. The highway department was able to get out there and do some work on Lynch Hill Road, pretty much rebuilt the road, to tell you the truth. The mayor was good enough to help us find the $12,000 to do that, and that's going to speed up some things as far as Lynch Hill Road, because to call it a road, like I said before, in its previous state was being nice. It really wasn't a road. So that moves forward. We finished up the 2012 Homeland Security Grant. The last thing we did was a reimbursement from the Nashville OEM for the $36,000 for the sonar that we bought for SORT. That was some end-of-the-year money that Nashville OEM could not spend out of their portion of the grant, so they turned it over to us, and we were able to make that happen. Also, just to let you know, we're preparing for, we've had a few meetings on this already. We're preparing for an HMTO class. That's a Hazardous Materials Technical Operations course. That's the 2-week course. We're going to be doing that. Primary student population will be Murfreesboro Fire, will be done at their Station 10. We're meeting with TEMA to set that up.
Is anybody else gonna be able to go besides
Yes,
Murfreesboro Fire?
yes, I've already put the word out to Chief Farley, as well as the SORT team and some others. If they want to get some in there, we might be able to squeeze them in. Under response, we've had 7 responses in the past month. There are 2 illegal burns we're asked to come out to, 2 spills, 1 release, 1 suspicious item, and 1 silo fire. The silo fire, if you don't know about what happened, is off of Samsonite Road, Sledgecraft. It burned for almost 2 weeks. It was is where the sawdust went once they produced their product, and we finally were able to contact someone out of Atlanta, a contractor who had expertise in that area. He came out and dumped his special chemicals on it, mixed with about 1,000 gallons of water, and ended the problem. So, but that took quite a bit of time.
Was that spontaneous, that fire?
The way we think it happened is that the conveyor belt that feeds into it, a piece of wood got underneath it and got to rubbing and got flung into there and caused a spark. You know, just like you start a fire as a young Boy Scout. Yeah, so it caught it a fire then, and you know, and it closed the business down. The city had to determine they needed to close the business down because it was an unsafe condition. They kept firemen out there for 2 weeks, 7x24, taking readings on it, the oxygen levels, the LELs, things of that nature. But finally, we found someone who had some expertise in the area, because the only other option we had was to sit there and let it hopefully burn out. But the readings they were getting were all over the page every day. It wasn't going to die easily. So
How
that's what
easy was it to find that guy in Atlanta?
it took a while. It took a while because I even brought in TEMA. We started a mission number to see if TEMA had any expertise, and they did not. And that's something else we're going to look at going forward. I know it doesn't come up that often, but this same company, as well as other companies, provide some level of training in how to handle silo
I was
fires.
just thinking about that they had that business shut down for 2 weeks or so.
Yes,
You know, and somebody was sitting down in Atlanta, I didn't know
yeah.
You
It
know.
took a while to find them. But subject to your questions, that's my report. You have the full reports on each one of the incidents with photos in the back.
Any questions on the report? If there are no questions, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. OSHA report.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Doing well, thank you.
That's a water boy here tonight, right here. You got a water situation.
In the month of June, the county had a total of 17 injuries that required medical condition. You can see the report there as to the nature of those injuries, bringing the total up to the year-to-date to 106. Total recordable were 57. Of those, 38 were restricted days, 12 lost time days, and 7 others. On the next page, you can see from the report, comparing the 2 previous years to this year, this time in 2012 we had 94, 2013 88, and we're up slightly as far as the count is concerned at 106. The total dollars incurred for the month of June was $30,830 incurred. The injuries, the way they broke down, the Board of Education, even while school is out, they've still got individuals working at the school doing prep work for the start of the new season, custodial work, moving furniture, and right now, believe it or not, teachers are already started coming back into the school, setting up for next year. Of that, 8 of the injuries that we had were related to the Board of Education. The total dollars incurred for those 8 injuries was just under $16,000 at $15,948 injuries. The remaining injuries for last month, then 9 were with the county general, and they were at $14,882. Of those 9 injuries for the county, 2 of them were with the ambulance service, 4 of them with the sheriff department, 1 with county maintenance, and 2 with Paul's. This is the way that broke down for the county. As far as the dollars, we talk about dollars incurred. In 2012 at this time, it was $325,000. In 2013 at this time it was $165, and we're at $163. So you can see that the dollars are in fact down. That meaning the severity of the injuries are down. I have an extra slide for you tonight on the last page. The county Finance and Budget Office every 2 years conducts an actuarial study, and that's done of the work-related injury program. One was done in June 2012, and another one they just finished up in June of 2014. And what they do is they project over the next year what those injuries are going to cost the county. And in this last page of the report, you'll notice that in June of 2012, they were projecting a monthly medical cost per employee of $6.92. That converts to the next year an estimated of $586,000. This last June, we just completed the report for 2014. That has actually dropped the estimated cost of work-related injuries. And for a monthly cost per employee, that's $4.89 to a yearly cost of $428,000.
Due to what?
I beg your pardon?
How did that happen? Due to what?
Due to what? Well, first off, I think it's a better understanding of the on-the-job injury program, training that we do with the employees, making sure people understand, safety, keeping the safety awareness out there, all of those types of things. Everything we're doing, every time we talk safety, we go out. Dwayne Hawkins in my office is constantly out to the schools and to county departments doing safety inspections. All of this stuff, just people are aware of safety.
Is it due to the new program as far as I can't?
That the OJI program is
Right.
definitely a part of it compared to the state workers' comp program. Yes.
Is it how many people have been denied something that this time that they may have been gotten on?
Believe it or not, initially when the program come out, of course, that was a little higher because people didn't understand the program and how it works now. But I can honestly say that in the last year and a half, I have not had any reviews or appeals to
Right.
any claims that are being done. Because if something happens, people say, yeah, I knew I was wrong when I did it, type thing.
Right.
And they accept the responsibility. And I believe this is coming back around to the point of individuals being responsible for their own actions.
So the reduction is not due to anybody being denied. in the
That's
past,
correct.
and it
We're not,
caused them
no,
to
there
go
is
down.
no wholesale denying of claims or anything like that.
Okay.
No, and in fact, if there was, I'd be embarrassed because it means we're not doing our job because we're just denying that many
Right.
claims.
Right.
Well, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
This is, the headline here says comparison of projected losses.
Yes, sir.
Since this was, data's from 2012, what are the actual losses versus the projected?
Uh,
How close are we to their projection? I want to see how actually good this was.
You may not have the numbers.
in
This is an actuarial study somehow that's based on actual data. They've had to use that data on what you're experienced and how they project that forward.
I see that, but with it being 2 years old, I assume by now we have the
Well,
actual data.
yes, and let me get my numbers
may
here.
not have it- you may not have it with you.
I
You
do.
can bring it
I
back
just
next
need to
time.
pull it up. I just had to find the right page to have it on. The total numbers, and this is done, and again, knowing their dates, they're using July 1st, and because it's OSHA, I deal with January 1st. Okay, but I can tell you that in 2012, the total cost was $572,107. In 2013, and of course some of those may still be open, not very many, but there may still be some open, $341,696. So what the actuarial study, of course, does is take and put that over along, and they're projecting what's going to be. And right now, it has been proven that while we may have a good year, the next year it may actually go up and be higher. But when it all gets leveled out over the period of time, they're pretty well close to the numbers.
It's basically like they're doing a life insurance.
It is. These people also do the life insurance and all those studies also. And this is just done strictly for the on-the-job injury program. Because the county does not have I do not have a budget that I do with work-related injuries. The budget and finance controls those dollars, and they budget that. So this allows them to know how much to budget over the next 2 years for that and estimate so that they can prepare for those.
Okay.
All right, is that all you got?
That's all I have on my report. I have one other thing I'd like to
So
just.
let's do the report first.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on the report?
Yeah, one more. I know we're happy with the number of dollars being down, but how could we be happy with the number of injuries going up?
We're not necessarily happy with the number of injuries. I think what happens is, again, because injuries are not as severe, a lot of the smaller minor claims are being reported possibly that weren't. We're concentrating on trying to get all those claims reported. If you can get the claims reported, then you can address them, you can improve the behavior that allowed the injury to occur.
So we're looking at this graph, the one that you've given us.
Yes, sir.
We're looking at this graph, and we see that it's the highest number of all the years that we're.
Of
that
this
we're
time,
graphing.
yes, sir.
Is your department reacting to that?
Yes. Again, we're continuing to do, as I said earlier, we're doing the inspections. Our safety inspector, Dwayne Hawkins, is out constantly to the schools and to the different county sites, doing the inspections, addressing that, keeping that out there. We have the county general safety committee that we hold quarterly and addressing that with them, working to continue to improve awareness for the safety.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, well, you gotta remember also that right now, we have more people working for the county, mainly because of the schools, than we ever had before, because the county's grown to 290,000. That's even probably 15 or so thousand versus 2 years ago.
But the educational process, Commissioner Schaefer, should continue. If a person has an accident, that person should be counseled and figure out why
Yeah.
the accident happened and what that person's gonna be doing to make sure that they're doing their part and not repeating.
Yes, sir, and that's part of the education process to the supervisors, because those are the ones, the first line of defense for injuries is the immediate supervisor.
If we don't do those things, we're saying it's okay. And
Yeah.
it's okay. to
No,
do it,
I'm
and it's
not disagreeing with you on it, but I'm saying that's part of the problem is you got more people, just like crime goes down percentage-wise because there's more people for one thing, even though there may be more crimes are committed than there were in the past.
Yeah.
Because,
But industry, you probably are well aware of this, I know Commissioner P probably is, but in industry, they measure, it doesn't matter what size company are, they measure by total incident rate.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And I'm not sure we do that, so it doesn't matter. You know, you can see whether your total incident rate's going up or down, and it doesn't matter if you've got 100 people or 50 people or 1,000 people, it just doesn't matter. If your incident rate is a certain amount, then OSHA picks up on that and they pay you a visit, instead of just a desk audit type of thing. And I was just wondering that if we see these number of accidents, and we know that they're increasing, and I want to make sure, or I'm interested in asking, are we reacting to those and saying, you know, that's a trend that we should not be ignoring, we should be reacting to it somehow, some way.
And yes, sir, we do pay attention to those numbers that are increasing, and they are a concern of ours. And we're working to still, again, try and improve those numbers.
Since you've been in office and we instituted the new workers' comp plan, what do we call it again?
On the job injury,
That's it.
OJI.
Things have improved quite a bit, but we don't need to be complacent.
Oh, absolutely not, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Move to approve.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. You have something else?
Yes. In recent days, I guess
I mean,
there's
yes, I'm not going.
well, in recent days, there's been some attention, I guess, in the local media about some renovation work that's being done here on the courthouse.
Oh.
And I just wanted to make sure, since we're here, and I realize that there's people in the county watching, just make sure everybody's aware of the status. That way there's no misinformation that comes out. Last Wednesday, on July 23rd, we had a county resident observe some construction or renovation being done on the cupola and the clock here in the courthouse. And that individual felt concerned about what he saw as far as the safety of the individuals doing the work. He expressed that in several different ways, one of which he called Tennessee OSHA. I got a call Wednesday afternoon from Tennessee OSHA asking me to come out and investigate it immediately because there was some real concerns that he expressed as far as fall hazard and possibly life-threatening issues. Myself and Dwayne Hawkins both came out, went up, investigated, took numerous pictures, and responded back to Tennessee OSHA that very afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. The following morning, on Thursday morning, Tennessee OSHA did have representatives down here, and they checked and inspected. Since it's a contractor, first off, the county is not cited in any way about anything that was going on because this was all to the contractor. While there were a couple of things, one, all individuals were wearing safety and fall prevention harnesses. They did get observed that the securing of the safety harness was to the old standard and not to the revised standard of OSHA, but they still had them and they were secured. Ladders used on the platform above that was reaching up to the top of the cupola, ladders were secured and they were okay. However, two of the ladders failed to have the floor grippers on the bottom of the ladder to keep them from sliding. So that was an issue. And the final issue that are concerned that OSHA had was for the bird feces that is on the top of the courthouse, and said that all individuals should be wearing gloves while they're working out on top of the courthouse. And so that was the extent of the OSHA inspection. Did not have the proper tile to the revised standard for fall protection, the two ladders missing the foot and the bird feces. OSHA stated that this did not warrant a work stoppage because the contractor immediately corrected all those issues and work has continued, and it meets OSHA standards.
The individual that called was concerned about seeing a person hanging up there, in essence.
Yes, sir.
And that was, according to TOSHA, was not an issue.
Initially, the way it was worded to me was a hazard with scaffolding. It didn't have anything to do with somebody hanging on a seat, proponent. It all had to do with scaffolding, and OSHA's come out, and the platform around the courthouse is approved by OSHA.
Okay. So the initial concern was not a concern that OSHA shared?
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, the thought was about the fall. And of course, if you're looking at it from the ground, looking up, and you see it, it probably looks a lot worse, like if you saw a window washer on a skyscraper. You know?
Understood.
But these issues that OSHA cited would not have been able to be seen from the ground. They would have only been able to see by getting up there and doing that. So.
Okay, thank you.
So it had to be one on their own?
Pardon?
You said they couldn't see it
No,
on the ground?
you couldn't see it from the ground. The only way OSHA would be able to observe these issues that they found was to actually get up there.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the person, the only way they could have seen it was they've got up there and looked at it.
No.
Okay.
No.
I misunderstood.
And again, this had nothing to do with county employees, and it was not county work, but it was being done on the courthouse.
On county property.
Yes, sir. And there was some concern, and we're here to address concerns.
Well, and rightfully so, because you never know if someone had gotten hurt, they may have tried to come out to the county and. We
Correct.
see-
And the county wants to ensure anything done on our property is safe.
Done
And that's
safe.
why we addressed it, and Tennessee OSHA came down and checked it out also, and everything is good to go right now.
Sounds good. Is that all you got?
That's all I have.
Good, Beth?
Only had to do with TOSHA, not the feds.
Tennessee OSHA, that is correct. The state of Tennessee has opted to write its own OSHA program, which is endorsed by the federal OSHA. And as long as Tennessee OSHA has it, the federal OSHA will not come in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Correctional Work Center. How you doing?
Start with the July 7th board meeting. Board began talking about the expenditures, and everything was good, new budget. We just informed them about the purchasing of the new oven, and that was only new equipment we had to purchase. And we discussed the high set test, which was Tennessee Tech was having issues getting it administered on their site, so they bought a bus over to the sheriff's department. We took inmates over there, and everything worked out. So the inmates were able to take their high set test, so that worked out great.
Is that Tennessee Technology or Tennessee Tech and Cook?
The technology here. And,
Oh, okay.
And informed the board about the volunteer appreciation event on August 23rd, Saturdays, 3 to 5. Something to show our appreciation for all the 80+ volunteers that come in there on a daily basis at some point during the week. And prayer breakfast we had passed in July on the 9th. And the next one is August 13th. And that was what we discussed with the board. Next is the state letter pickup report. Collected a total of $2,118.09 from the state for the month of July. Then the yearly activity report reflects an average monthly census. This past month we went up actually almost up to 170, so that's good in retrospect. Shows the monthly releases and entered, the worker out average per month. These are the reports. They're about the same. Same with disciplinary reports. The GED up to and include May, they have that summer vacation, so they'll start back up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. DY Little Pickup is going strong, which is on Sundays and Mondays. That's pretty much that report. The work release program going very well. Actually, heard today we up to 18 inmates in the program. And last month we had 1 hired full time at Middlemax and 1 hired full time at Interlap once they were released. And the monthly worker report, what we saved, the county for the month of June was $135,538. That's for the workers on the grounds and going out to other agencies. That's the report.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Good job, thank you.
Juvenile detention. How you doing?
Good, how are y'all?
Doing good.
Good. I'm Rebecca Basket. I've been here a couple of times. I don't know if
Right.
y'all remember me or not. I have several things in front of you. The first thing I have is the monthly report. There's nothing unusual on the monthly report, but I'll answer any questions that y'all have.
Any questions on the report? Numbers basically the same, there's really no big changes now.
Right.
Whenever y'all get a chance to get through with it, I'll entertain a motion on, well, yeah, we got the contract, whenever y'all get a chance to look at it.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And then I think you got a contract.
We've got a few contracts. There's been amendments to the contracts with the counties to include the PREA language in there, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. I also picked up a new contract with Perry County, and I should be getting that back shortly. And there's also, after the amendments, we have a PREA audit contract for Ronaldo Myers. It's required by federal law. We thought initially it was gonna cost $6,000, but it's only gonna cost $3,000 instead.
So basically, right now, what we need to look at is the contracts.
Yes, sir.
We got the Sumner County contract, and then the Henry County contract,
Yes, sir.
the Madison County contract, McNairy County contract,
Yes, sir.
and Montgomery County contract, Franklin County contract,
Yes, sir.
Robertson County contract.
Right. And that should be,
And now, all those contracts are the same thing, same dollar,
Right,
just different counties.
yeah, just that amendment.
And they've all been through legal.
And the amendment is what again?
It's
Explain
for the
that.
Prison Rape Elimination Act in 2003, George Bush. It's a law, federal law. It's to eliminate, monitor any sexual abuse and to prevent sexual abuse inside correctional facilities. And every detainee that's booked in gets a PREA handout and what to do if they feel like they're, could be a victim or a perpetrator.
The sheriff has to have somebody that can investigate these type of things or something, doesn't it? Didn't that come up a couple of
They
years
do.
ago?
Yeah.
Can we do them all together?
You can do all of these counties, I mean, the amendment's the same.
All right.
It's just to include that language to notify them that this is a requirement that we have.
So it's all, so
Participate in
this
the
amendment is the same thing with all those contracts?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
Was Perry County a new one, did you say?
They're signing theirs now. A new contract
but it-
completely.
Really?
But it-
Yeah.
But
But
all
it's-
the rest of them are
it's
like
not
a
on
renewal?
here.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to the effect?
I'll make a motion to approve the new contracts.
Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, discussion? Call, we need to call a roll on.
I'll be happy to.
Now, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And is that all you have on yours tonight?
Yes, sir.
Is the juvenile that killed that National Guard person, is he still in Rutherford County?
We have a lot of juveniles from all counties.
All right, I understand you can't answer.
Did that last,
It was on the news.
did the last motion we just voted on, was that just for the counties or the PREA
It was all-
agreement
it
for
was
the
all-
last one too? Because
My
that's a
understanding is that-
completely
Did
different.
you, did it include this agreement for
No,
that guy?
that motion did not include that.
I misunderstood you because I thought that was part of the contract, so it's separate.
This is a separate, yes. This is a contract for Ronaldo Myers to be the PREA auditor.
Okay, all right. All right, Ronaldo Myers, who is Ronaldo Myers? Is he an employee for Rutherford County?
He's not an employee, he's a contracting agency that comes in and audits our policies and procedures for the PREA.
Okay. Okay.
And it came out half as much as what you were anticipating.
Yes, sir. We thought it was gonna cost $6,000, but it's gonna cost $3,000.
And all he's gonna be doing is auditing it?
Right.
But this is a requirement?
Yes,
that
sir.
we
It's a
have it
federal
audited by-
mandate.
Did they happen to send you the money to pay for this?
No, they didn't.
Nah,
We
you
did,
know-
we
you know-
did
you
argue
know better
that.
than that.
It's just out of curiosity.
Right. That was, we
Checks,
tried.
checks in the mail.
Yeah.
right.
Unfunded mandate.
Y'all have heard the explanation, and is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the contract for the audit.
And I'm gonna second it too, you know, it's, like I said, it's a requirement that we have to do it, so.
All right. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
So why isn't that a money one?
Well, we
It's got money.
call the roll.
And do the motion to authorize the execution thereof.
Yeah.
I will say there have been some very preliminary discussions with Ms. Duke, and it may be that we don't actually have to spend this money, but you can go ahead and approve it, and then she can decide if she wants to continue all the way through the process.
Do you want to forward this budget?
Yes,
Would this be an annual ongoing type of thing?
it could be, yes.
Jesus.
Well, I'm getting mixed signals here. I've been told that it's a federal requirement.
It is a
You're telling me
requirement,
it's
but-
not?
Both the jail and the work center have found a way to do this without spending any money. And it may not be available to them, okay, so we need to confirm some of this.
So it's not gonna be spent unless it absolutely has to be.
That's right, that's right.
But I'll let my second stand and also allow you to sign it as part of my second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes. Is that it?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Drug court, and I don't see her here. And we'll pause.
The drug court's just
It's the same.
first month of the year,
It's
and
first month, and it's pretty much a routine
Yeah.
report, nothing much has changed there.
do we need to approve it?
Yeah.
Do we need to,
Not really.
or not? I don't care, I'm just asking.
All right.
Ready, sir?
Yes.
For the month of June, we had 794 animals that were taken into the shelter. 28.9% came from county jurisdictions, 9.8% came from the city of Laverne, 40.8% came from the city of Murfreesboro, and 20.5% came from the town of Smyrna. We had 147 adoptions for the month, 433 animals were euthanized, and 90 animals were reclaimed by their owners. That gave us an overall adoption reclaim percentage of 32% and the euthanasia percentage of 58.4%. When you take in our wildlife and other animals that could be released live, we had a 39.4% live release rate, and 42 of those animals were through the surgery programs. At the end of the month, we had 150 animals that remained in the shelter. We had 2,308 people that visited the shelter looking for a lost or new pet, and 2,756 log calls and voicemails for the month. Our calls received were 1,807. Our calls completed were 1,806. You can see the breakdown there by jurisdictions as well. And we traveled 11,977 miles for the month. To close out our fiscal year, we had 7,740 animals that were taken into the shelter. That's down by a couple of hundred animals. You can see our adoptions, they were up. We had 1,754. We're getting back on our adoptions to being in the ballpark of where we were before the economy kind of tanked in 2007 and 8. So we're finally getting back there, and our euthanasias are down. Our live release rate over the fiscal year was 45.4%. We had over 23,000 people visit the shelter, and we had over 25,000 calls and voicemails. Our call volume was 18,628 calls received, 18,655 calls completed. What was kind of interesting on these figures for the year was our call volume was up almost 2,000 calls. However, our animals were down around 200, so we're running more calls. We're just not picking up as many animals on those calls, which is, it's encouraging that we're not picking up as many animals, but it's not encouraging that we're running a couple thousand more calls per year. Our total mileage for the year was 138,615. On our bite report, if you remember, it goes by calendar year, not by fiscal year. For the month of June, we had 51 bites that were reported. One of those animals were tested and it was negative. For our other exposure, we had 21 other exposures. 10 of those animals were tested. 5 of those did test positive. You can see that brings us to, for the total for the year, 14 positives or unsatisfactories. They're both classified the same. All of our animals that were in June were all skunks. They were all exposures to other animals. So someone's dog or cat was exposed to the skunk. Out of those 5, 1 was unsatisfactory, but we treated, like I said, the same as a positive. In all these instances that I can recall, every one of them just had to do a 45-day home observation for the state veterinarian. And what we do during that observation is one of my officers follows up with those owners approximately once a week just to make sure the animal's not showing any behavior changes. At the end of the 45-day, the home observation stops.
Explain once again to us the positive. I've got a pet that gets exposed to a skunk, and I call you. What do you do?
We would typically, when we're going out on those calls, the skunk is deceased from the incident. We would take
Is what?
Is deceased from the, your dog has killed the skunk, so it's deceased. We would go and retrieve the skunk, send that animal off to the state lab for testing. And then depending upon the results, we get with the state vet's office to determine what the course of action is. They get to make the call on that. Like I said, for these folks, their animals had some type of history of a rabies vaccine, where it may not be current, but there may be a history where they had 2 or 3 years in a row to provide some protection, and they allowed a 45-day home observation.
Well, that was my question. What's the difference if you had a dog or a cat that was not vaccinated?
If there was no vaccination history there, the state can recommend that the animal be euthanized.
What do y'all normally do though?
We've only had...
Do you isolate them, take them in yourself and hold them for that 45 days?
If the animal had not had the rabies, if it had not had the vaccination, we haven't had one to where that's been an issue to where the state vet has said the animal needs to be put down. I think according to the guidelines, and we haven't had very many of these, I believe they do a 6-month observation period on those, to whereas if there is some type of vaccination history, we go back to the 45 days. Thankfully, we've not had to address that very often on a 6-month deal.
When we were having to house those animals for something like that, would you charge the person?
We're not housing those animals. The state will allow them to do a home observation, so they're not having to be housed
Even though they hadn't been vaccinated?
Correct. They will allow them to do the home
That's what I wanted to
observation.
know.
The only animals that are being quarantined within our shelter are animals that have bitten someone and they're under their 10-day rabies quarantine. We do those,
Okay.
but not a 6-month quarantine.
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael,
Ambulance service.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
How's it going, Randy?
Good evening. All right. For you is our June report. Total number of calls, 2,163. That's up from this time last year, and we continue to go up. Nothing else really, speaks it out at the page. So I'll let you guys go over that. And if you have any questions,
On
please.
62, you got one breakdown. Is that a frontline? That's a frontline.
That is a frontline ambulance. The ones in yellow are not. I want to say that they broke down in Nashville at one of the hospitals, but I don't remember what's wrong with
Yeah.
it. And I believe it happened toward the end of the month, and that's why we don't have what was wrong in the.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Next page is our in-service training and our pedal medics. What they did, the Smyrna Air Show really steps out when we talk about the REACT team and the pedal medics. And so those are all of our in-service trainings, our SORT Special Rescue Team. Nothing, no questions there, we'll move on. Here are response times per station. And our response time actually is down this month. Not much, but it is down. Each one of the stations. The next two pages are the report concerning the district calls and how many calls that we made to Nashville. And our transport team calls, this is for the month, and the next page is for the year to date. If there are no questions there. This page is a breakdown of the runs that we had for each one of the zones and each one of the stations, and if they went out of zone and answered that particular call. So, if you have any questions with that, I'll continue on. Okay. I shake my head sometime too. The next one is from actually, this is from Mike Nunley's family, Mike and Denise, and Rita Ann Myers Maid Clymer is Mike's mother-in-law. The next page is vacation denials for June. Obviously, June is a big month, and again, we had FMLA and we had vacations that were in there, so this is nothing abnormal. These are hours like they call on a Thursday and they want to be off on Saturday, and we're unable to fill those calls.
Y'all schedule, some of them in a year in advance on
Exactly.
sometimes, don't you?
Yes, sir.
How many people do y'all allow off a shift?
Well, see, that's a floating number, and the reason it's a floating number is because we don't know how many people are going to be on FMLA that shift. So it's kind of a floating number. Usually, we don't allow any more than 2 or 3 off, but now, depending on how many we have on FMLA too. And the next page is actually those hours.
What's your shift staffing, as far as numbers on shift?
We have 13 ambulances on shift 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, times 2.
So roughly about 30 people, when you add in the supervisors and the sort truck.
One, right, and then
Thereabouts.
right, 2 from the SORT and a north end supervisor and an assistant director. Okay, and that's the end of the report.
Any questions on the report?
Just Smyrna Air Show, it's at 300, was that mostly heat or something?
It was heat, a lot of it, and so we are actually working with EMA and the event planners to actually come up with misters and things like that for the next air show, and so we're trying to. I think it kind of hit some people by surprise, and we were able to take care of all of them, but I think we're going to have a bigger showing next time. It was just a hot day that day.
Well, this polar vortex is
I know, that's right, that's right.
All right, anybody else?
I've got a couple questions, but not about the report.
All right. Anybody else got any report, questions? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
What?
Am I the only one?
Do we have a motion?
We
I thought we did. All in favor of the motion?
Commissioner
Yeah.
Phillips, I need a second.
Oh,
Oh, did you make a
I-
motion? I don't think there was a motion to approve.
Is there a motion to approve the report?
Vote, right?
Is there a motion to approve the report?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. All right,
Today was a, you wanna tell us about today, with what's going on?
Today, the Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department started their basically advanced capabilities for medical, and for the last 10 months, for the last 10 months, they've been training and retraining. We've done hours and hours of in-service per shift. We have credentialed somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 of their employees to use the more advanced protocols for first response. And so they'll be able to use more technology and to be able to use that technology better to give certain things prior to our arrival with the ambulance service, and to basically, be better first responders.
What specifically are they gonna be able to do different prior to the ambulance arrival than they could have done previously?
Well, some of the things have to do with pulse oximetry and blood sampling for glucose and aspirin for MIs and heart attacks, and of course, probably the biggest thing is their advanced skills in patient handling and in patient assessment prior to our, those are the big things.
Patient assessment's huge. Are they gonna
Huge.
be able to give, IV's never saved anybody's life, are they gonna be able to give epi?
Well, what we've said is, now of course, we can't even give epi without the medical director's approval. So what we've said is we're gonna start doing these things, and as we progress, then we can go into different things and give them more responsibilities as we grow.
I just don't understand how a school nurse can give epi at our schools.
RN.
RN's a step above a paramedic and a EMT.
Well, it's really a whole different aspect. They're not necessarily above. It is like apples and oranges.
Is that a skill that an EMT would use normally?
It is a skill that an EMT would use normally if the medical director approved.
What about D50 or Narcan?
Again, if the medical director approved.
And I know there's
Yeah,
police
we don't-
departments that give Narcan.
Right, and we don't do that. Our EMTs don't do that with the ambulance. They're going to be able
Well,
to do.
You've got dual trucks. We don't have.
Correct.
Is there a process in place for that to happen? Or?
Not right now, not until, and the way that we get new things and new skills at the ambulance service is to actually say, we need these because this is how many patients that we had that needed this particular thing. And we've got no base for first response patients. And as we continue on with this first response program, that gives us an inlet to say, well, we had this many allergic reactions that we could have given epi to.
And the reason why I say that is my parents live a block away from a fire station. And my niece is over there, their grandchild, and gets stung by a bee. And the fire department's waiting 7 minutes on the ambulance. And they couldn't give that child epi. That just looks really bad for the public, and I want to see us move in that direction.
Our average response time from the fire department is less than 2 minutes.
And then there's dispatch differences there too. Y'all get the call, and then it takes a little while for us to get dispatched.
Our
to the
average
fire.
response time is less than 2 minutes.
There's times where it could make a difference,
Well-
and if it's for a child, I'm all for it.
Well,
And I
that-
want to see us move into that direction. As long as that avenue's open, I'm trying to be positive here and not trying to argue. Training is key.
Try a little harder, Commissioner.
Yeah, well, that's why I wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, you trying a little hard not to argue?
No, I was trying to give y'all 30 minutes of freedom. But
Praise
we
God.
gotta have a plan in place to where that happens, because
There won't.
when every other fire department does it, when you go to Franklin and Brentwood and Metro and they're doing it,
Here,
I just
hold
don't
on,
get it.
hold on just a minute. This is more of a protocol discussion between the
Correct.
chiefs and the management of the ambulance
Correct.
service, so that's where
Just don't
it
wanna
needs
be-
to go to.
Just don't wanna be hamstrammed.
Now, that's gonna be up to your chiefs and the management of the ambulance service to discuss that.
I represent, citizens in this city, and I wanna make sure they're equally protected and got the best service, and they're not,
All right.
their hands aren't tied.
Is there any questions for the ambulance service? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Rutherford County Sheriff's Department,
Did he not? He said, oh.
They said he can do it.
how you doing?
He gives approval. Yeah.
Doing good.
He gives approval.
Got Rosemary up here for, it's been a while since Rosemary's been up
It
here.
has.
Let's do it.
See, Laverne's gonna have that. Give it time. Trust me.
Y'all okay?
Good, how about you?
Feel fine. Do you want me to go ahead and start?
Yep.
The first one is recognize the revenue from the remaining GHSO grant.
What are we starting on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The report or something else?
Whichever y'all want me to. Just-
The
I
first
thought we was gonna do the amendment.
We got the amendment, I think, the amendment's the first one on the top.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. It's to recognize the revenue from the remaining GHSO grant, putting it back in overtime and the related benefits. This is from the 13-14 year, but it wasn't included in the 14-15 budget. This is the other federal revenue through the state that we,
Okay, we'll continue on.
okay, that's the only one that's actually in the general fund. This one, the other one is the special purpose. So you want to do that one separate?
All right, okay, let me do that. All right, you've heard the request on that. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the increases.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll say.
And a second. All right. Discussions or questions? Hearing or seeing none, call a roll.
Commissioner Pete,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes.
The second one is the special purpose fund. This is requesting special purpose, it's from his special purpose ending fund balance and the June deposit, and he's allocated where he wants his money, the expense to go on these different ones.
So this is all the same money and all? so
It's basically all, there was,
moving around.
well, at the budget year, there was not any funds moved into the special purpose except in one account. I think they were waiting to see what the ending fund balance was gonna be.
Okay.
And so they took that plus like I said, that last deposit, in June, and that's where this is where he wants the money allocated in the expense.
Okay. You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll say.
Second. All right, discussion.
Do your numbers add up?
Yes.
Okay.
We had a discussion today, actually, with Lisa,
Okay.
so, yes.
Any other
They
questions?
took the ending fund balance, and then they took the deposit of what the last one, this is right.
Where's this money coming from? I'm not sure I understand.
Special purpose fund,
From-
drug fund.
Okay, thank you.
And
It's
yeah,
a-
we have an ending fund balance when you
Yes.
pass the budget, but they've added a little bit more to it since
Since
with some
then.
June receipts, but this is routine.
Right.
So
It's the
they're-
Fed fund.
So you're just moving around into the other?
Right.
They
It's just
allocated
taking,
where he's going this money.
allocate where he
It
wants
wasn't
it.
designated previously.
Thank you.
All right, call roll.
Commissioner Pete,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes.
And you have the reports.
Right, you have your report.
And basically, the report is, we're in the first month of
Right.
of the budget, so everything should be okay.
Right.
All right. If there's no questions on the report, whenever y'all are ready, I'll entertain a motion. Is there a motion?
Still looking, Commissioner. Everything looks 100% or something like that, but one jumps out as postal charges spent.
What's the number?
I don't know, it's 348. Postal charges, it looks like we spent 2/3 of the budget already this year. I'm not reading that wrong, maybe, but.
It's all been encumbered. Doesn't mean it's been spent. It means that she's sent up a PO.
Well, I have to look at that, I have to think about that. Postal charges would be actually what we have to put usually 2,000 or 3,000 in the postal machine as far as that goes to do the letters. So I'm not exactly sure without looking exactly to see what that is on that.
How many vehicles have been ordered with,
So
looks like
far-
a third of them?
So far, 10. They're already on the ground. Probably order a couple more tomorrow, or we'll send up a PO tomorrow. We're kind of, one thing that when we did our budget, we did it very tightly, and so we're having to, we're not going to be able to buy as many cars even as we thought we were going to be able to buy. So we're having to
Are you
walk that
spreading them
slow.
out?
Huh?
You spreading them out over the year or plan on it?
No,
or-
we're planning on trying to get as many of them as soon as possible for the simple fact if we wait, every other agency in the state buys them and then everybody's backed up waiting to get their cars built.
Mhm.
So that's Alexander Ford. We still have our contract with them until September 1. There's a dealership out of Jackson, Tennessee who now has the state contract. But they had 20 vehicles still sitting on the ground. They were last year's models. They gave us a deal. They had 20 of them. We bought 10. We're going to probably buy 2 more, probably detective vehicles tomorrow, or send the PO up for them if they have them. But we got a little bit better deal on them. By going ahead and staying here in Murfreesboro instead of ordering them out of Jackson. But Jackson, Tennessee is now the one that has a state contract for Fords. Dodge of Columbia now has a state contract for the Dodges. So the Murfreesboro stores lost all the contracts this year.
And to answer your question, like the sheriff said, on a lot of the postal charges, it's where they buy a lot of the supplies and things for the postal machine. So there are some POs that are in place for that.
That'll last all year?
Most likely. And there's rental on the machine. All that comes out of that.
Okay. This is common, it's like this time last year, it's been the same thing?
Probably. I'd have to look back to see exactly. But I know there are POs for the rental, there are PO for postal supplies, and then, like I said, we send up for postage, actual postage. So there's POs and things, that's probably what it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to approve the report.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Here's the donation letter.
Okay.
What's this?
Accommodation letters.
Yeah, okay. Enough?
All right, thank y'all.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, any other business come before the committee?
Just like to thank the Correctional Work Center and Superintendent Solandi, because he has worked with Laverne High School and before school started, no kids around. And we have a big hill up there that gets pretty overgrown, and there's a drainage ditch that runs through the campus that he had a crew up there today
That's
that took
good.
care of it. So just working together and saved, as he said, $135,000 this past.
I'm telling you.
I didn't want to ask in front of the superintendent, just to follow up with that, but he mentioned a prayer breakfast that's going on that he has maybe once a month. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
The next one was
Yeah, but
13th.
what is it? What do they do?
They've had outside speakers, like they had the Tennessee Department of Corrections Commissioner.
Mm.
He just came up and gave a 3, 4, 5 minute little talk, and they have a little bit of breakfast food there. It's
Yes.
just inviting anyone that wants to come,
So it's
law enforcement or otherwise.
It's voluntary?
Voluntary.
That's, I just like the sound of it. I just wondered what it was. I hadn't heard of that before. He's instituted a number of innovative things over the last few years, and I just thought that might be another one.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Anybody else have anything to bring up? Any other business?
I just want to say it's been a fun 4 years for everybody up here. I know 3 of us for sure aren't going to be up here next time. Appreciate you putting up with me for the last 4 years. It's always exciting.
Well, we got one more public safety meeting.
One more public
We
safety?
got August, yeah.
August.
Well, we have August too? Okay.
September 1st.
I didn't realize we had one
Change the
more
government.
then.
Yeah. We got one more.
The last hurrah,
And- and-
freedom.
And it'll be my 57th birthday.
Okay.
The last two.
You're just a young.
I think it's.
I'm not as old as you are. Well, hey, if there's no other business, we stand adjourned. Thank y'all.